So, I have said this numerous times, but I've never actually made a video where I've talked about it specifically. And that is, I have said that it seems that women in general just don't seem to have a sense of honor or a sense of integrity. And what exactly does that mean? And more importantly, why? Why do women seem to not have honor and not have integrity? So that's what this video is going to be about. So before we really begin, let's start off with what I mean and how I even came to recognize this pattern, right? Start with how I recognized it. I remember back in the day, I was watching a couple of videos on the internet, and there's this one video where these women were fighting, I think, at McDonald's, and after the woman got knocked out, the lady continued to stomp on her head over and over again, even after the employees pushed her off and moved her away. What was also interesting was I remember I'd seen another video where these two guys fought in the locker room, and this one black guy and this one white guy, they stood up to each other, and the white guy knocks the black guy out after he talked a whole bunch of shit, and they got ready to fight, and that concluded it. He didn't continue striking him after he knocked him out. It was just done. It was just game over. And it was really interesting to me to see how consistently, whenever a man would knock another guy out in a fight, that ends the engagement. Like, they don't beat his face in. It's just over. It's just done. But with women, they constantly bash the other lady's head in or keep kicking her or hitting her even when she's down. There's no honor in that. Now, this isn't to say that that all men operate with honor. For example, like in the UFC, if you knock a guy out, usually they'll jump on top of them and they'll keep attacking them, which is actually kind of interesting that street fights are conducted with more honor than UFC fights, but that's neither here nor there. This isn't to say that every man is going to be honorable, because they're not. But what it is saying is that every man has to adhere to some type of standard that he will be judged upon if he does not act upon it. For example, deadbeat dads. Deadbeat dads are still adhered to the standard of being a good parent, which is why they're lambasted in society. There's just no two ways around it. And we're going to jump back to that point later in the video, but to show you guys what I mean is the fact that there is some order of operation that men have to enact in that women just don't seem to have. And there's some order of operation that men enact in that seems to just be natural to them that women just don't have. So the question then comes to, so why don't women operate with this same degree of integrity and honor? Well, that leads us to what should have started the conversation, but I'm a cheeky bastard. What does honor and integrity mean? Now, you can look at a Webster dictionary definition, and honor and integrity are basically synonyms. For me, the difference is more the connotation, than the denotation. Whereas honor and integrity is basically moral steadfastness to a code, or moral steadfastness to your morals and your principles and things you believe in. Now, honor, I more look at it as your relation to other people, like your promises and your commitments, and your bonds. You honor what other people expect from you, or what you tell other people you expect from them, like you honor your marriage. Whereas integrity is more your personal principles that you stay true to despite what other people say and have around you. Like, for example, when I was younger, I went to Sunday school. I think it was more like a men's meeting, actually, in church. But the one teacher told me that the best way he describes integrity is doing the right thing when no one is looking. Like, when no one is around, you still are steadfast and you still stick to what you believe is right. That's how he explained integrity to us and why we should have it. Now, the question then asks, so why does it seem like a lot of women don't have that? Why does it seem like a lot of women are manipulative? Why are women nasty? Why do women conduct themselves with just no honor for their own bodies, with sexual promiscuity and all that? Why is that? So let's actually start breaking that down. Because if you look at what honor and integrity is, that will answer the first part of the question. That's the first reason why women don't seem to have a lot of honor and integrity. Honor and integrity are traits that have to exist independent of how you feel. You have to want to do the right thing in spite of what makes you angry at that time. If someone slaps the food out of your tray in your high school and you have the moral steadfast, even if you're a martial artist, you're really good at fighting, you're really good at jiu-jitsu, but you don't need to fight there. You don't need to get in trouble. You don't need to fight. You have to make the decision in that moment right there to be honorable to your code and use your integrity to say, you know what, I'm angry and I'm upset, but I can't do it. I have to do the right thing. You have to act in spite of how you're feeling. Did you get it? Did you pick it up? Did you figure out why a lot of women don't have honor and integrity? It's because the principal nature of what honor and integrity is acting in spite of how you feel. But women make decisions based solely on how they feel. That's how they operate. Now, it's not wrong or right. It's not good or bad. That's just what they are, and that's just how women think. You can't really control it. Women are emotional creatures and they make decisions based on how they feel. But because they make decisions based on how they feel, honor and integrity cannot exist in their minds. Why? Because again, honor and integrity work on staying true to what you believe is right, despite wanting to do something else, despite the way you feel. And because women make decisions based on how they feel rather than what's wrong or what's right, or any moral principle that they can't have integrity and they can't have honor. Now, I will pause this video to say this. This is not saying that no woman ever in the history of the world doesn't have honor and integrity, because that's not true. It's just not true. And it's not saying that all men in the world at all time have had honor and integrity, because that's just not true. But what it is saying, which leads us to our next point, is that there does seem to be a code or a principle or a standard of what it means to be a man. Now, I've said this a lot on my channel for years now, that if you were to ask, what does it mean to be a man, people will oftentimes always have an answer for you. It'll probably be someone who is morally upright, someone who takes care of his family, who protects his family, someone who thinks about others, who is kind, who's real. You get like a whole bunch of different traits on what does it mean to be a man. If I were to ask you, the audience, what does it mean to be a man, you'll probably get like a provider or something like that. You'll have something. But if I were to ask you, what does it mean to be a woman, a lot of people will struggle with that. A lot of people wouldn't be able to tell you what does it mean to be a woman. Now, why is that? I'll tell you why that is in a second. But I think the more to further my point is a lot of the time, I remember one time back in college, I tried to make a video, what does it mean to be a real man? What does it mean to be a real woman? And a lot of the answers I got from what it means to be a woman, or like the best thing to be a woman, is independence from men. The best woman is a woman that doesn't need a man to take care of her, a woman who is financially successful or really good in her career. But to me, that often seems a little strange, mostly because being successful in your career exists independent of your femininity. In fact, a man can also be successful in his career. What would be important then are not the traits of masculinity and being a man, but what is important is having lots of money and being independent and not relying on other people. And thus, it's not really a trait that is specific to women that really, enacts on what it means to be them, but it is just a trait on just fundamentally, you have to take care of yourself as an adult. So it just didn't really seem like something specific to what it means to be a woman. It wasn't really, these are the traits that make you good at being a woman, but these are the traits that make you good at just, existing in life. And that's being financially successful and having lots of money. So there wasn't really a lot of traits that really specifically hone in on femininity. What does it mean to be a woman? Women don't have a standard. They don't have a rite of passage. So they can't respect or adhere to a principle that also doesn't exist. If there is no honor in being a woman, if there's no principle or integrity in being a woman, there's no moral code that you have to be in order to be good at being a woman, then how can you fail at it? What are you adhering to? What are you choosing your mistakes and your beliefs upon? Who is passing down these laws and these thoughts and these moral guidelines to women on how they should operate and think? There is a huge lack of that. In fact, that leads me to reason number 3 as to why I am saying, or why I think, that a lot of women just don't seem to have honor and integrity. And that is because whenever anyone does try their best to give women some type of standard or code of which they should live to, they are oftentimes criticized and lambasted as being harmful to girls. And this happens consistently. This happens with Girl Defined. This happened with Nash Greer. This even happens to me every now and again. Basically, whenever anyone tries to give women this is Christianity 101. Especially on the internet. One of the major reasons why people have such a disdain for Christianity is because it gives women moral guidelines of which they should adhere to. Hilarious how no one ever considers all of the tough shit men went through in the Old Testament, but Oh, God forbid you talk about women there, and women are, the Bible is so misogynistic, but we're talking about Moses and Abraham and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and all the stuff they went through. No. It's just the Bible is somehow misogynistic, even though most of the people that suffer are men. But you see my point. That's totally irrelevant to a lot of these guys. What's misogynistic is there's a code to women. It's telling women how they have to be and how they should be. And people hate that. Why? Because people want to protect women to an unnatural degree. And the instinct to keep women safe is a totally reasonable one. Why? Because women have wombs. They are the limiting reagent in reproduction, and thus, because of so, they become incapacitated during pregnancy. Your instinct has guided you. I mean, the whole culture itself has guided young men, especially. You don't hit girls. You protect them. You keep them safe. All of that jazz. All of that good stuff. Everyone wants to protect women, and that extends to women's own mentality and their own self-esteem and their own way they feel. The only problem with that is if you constantly coddle women, they never become battle-hardened. They never gain the self-esteem. They never gain the skills and the mental capacity and the mental strength to deal with problems that occur to them. This is the reason why it's bad to not give women principles and to not give women criticism. And from my point of view, just an explanation for that. But what is consistent in the video's topic today is the fact that whenever you give women some type of criticism or you try to hold women to it, people will defend it. People will hand wave it. People will defend. When I say people will defend it, I don't mean the criticism. They will defend the behaviors that the criticisms are against. For example, promiscuity. That's just the best one off the top of my head. Being a slut, going around having a bunch of sex with random guys. People will defend that long before they say women should remain virgins until they get married, or at the very least have sex with people that you like. At the very least, God forbid you say, at least date people who are strong, you have tight relationships with before you have sex with them. You've been with them for a couple of years. God forbid you say that. No. It's kind of funny, actually, now that I think about it. But the point is, people will always say that, no, any behavior that women do, because we live in a more liberal culture. And by liberal, I mean, kind of let people do what they want to do, consequences be damned kind of culture. Any type of rule or standard is oftentimes hand-waved or dismissed or argued against because it hurts feelings, and I mean, I could psychologically evaluate why it hurts the feelings, but that probably it goes beyond the scope of this video. What's important is to say that, I mean, the long and short of it is, whenever you try to give women some type of standard that they should adhere to and listen to, you are oftentimes lambasted. You are the one who is criticized. You are the one who's harmful to women. Look at Beachbody Ready. That happened a little while back ago, when the whole ad campaign, Are You Beachbody Ready? That thing that occurred, that was its own thing as well. I can probably come with lots of different examples, but again, women are protected. People want to protect women a lot, not almost, to their detriment. And because criticism can hurt feelings and people want to protect the feelings of women, the standards cannot be applied to them. And then reason number 4 that I have to say, or why I believe that women don't really have a lot of honor and integrity, is because of a concept I call top dog and underdog, right? Now, top dog, underdog basically means that there is an imbalance of power between point A and point B. Now, the way women perceive the world usually is that they are inferior to men. Now, a lot of women won't say it, they won't verbalize it. A lot of women won't act it out, but in the back of their mind, and how even if you sometimes you can pull it out of women if you have a direct confrontation with them or like directly bring this point out to them. But in the woman's mind, which is very reasonable, they realize the inevitable truth of the world, and that is, as a woman, it's entirely possible to come face to face with a man who is superior to you in every way. And that means you can find a man who is bigger than you can find a man who's stronger than you can find a man who is faster than you, and scary enough, you can find a man that is smarter than you. So he can be all of these different things at the same time relative to you as a woman. And that's a pretty terrifying thought. I mean, how do you face off against an opponent who's bigger, stronger, faster, and possibly smarter than you are? Well, the answer is simple. You manipulate them. You analyze what their weaknesses are, and you use that against them. This is why women are manipulative in nature, because they realize they can't overpower men in any physical capacity, and they may not even be able to outsmart men in any intellectual capacity, which isn't to say that there are no women smarter than any man ever. I don't want anyone that I don't even think how you could understand that. Like, there are. Anyhow, I'm gonna just dismiss that offhand. But the reason why women are more manipulative than men is because they realize that in a physical sense and sometimes an intellectual sense, they're just not gonna be able to compete with men. It is possible to meet your physical and intellectual superior. Which again isn't saying all men are smarter than women, but come on, use your common sense. So how do they overcome that threat? They have to either, one, find a man that they can manipulate and then get that man to fight them, or they find some way to use those weaknesses that men have and turn it back against them. Now, because women are always have this victim mentality, women are always under the idea or understanding that men can hurt them or harm them, they feel like there is no reason to adhere to the same standards of men because they are not the equals of men. And you can just, feminism is just kind of this 101. But because women don't feel like they're on the stage, because women feel like they are top dog, bottom dog, I guess, or underdog, top dog, underdog. Because women feel like they're the underdogs of their own stories consistently, they feel like they have to be manipulative or they have to use every advantage that they can in order to overcome men because men are an antagonistic force in their life. Now, of course, what you realize on my channel, the overall problem with this. The problem is that men are not an antagonist to women. Evil is an antagonist to good. It's not men versus women, it's good versus evil. Evil has to be defeated by what's good. The reason why this is a problem, or why women should not look at men or not be manipulative like this to such a degree, is because you can meet very good men and you need those good men in order to defeat the evil men. You can't look at all men as a paragon that needs to be overcome. You have to look at evil as a force in the world that needs to be defeated, which means you can get allies from anywhere and everywhere as long as they're morally righteous and good. I know this shit sounds like a fucking anime, but I mean, it's real. I'm not making this up. So, in conclusion, basically, I've gathered about 4 reasons why I don't think women have a lot of honor and integrity. And that is reason number 1, it is antithetical to how women make a lot of decisions in general. Women make decisions based on how they feel rather than how they think and rather than how it should be. 2, there's no moral standard or no standard of what it even means to be a woman, so they have nothing that they need to adhere to begin with. 3, whenever someone tries to give them this moral steadfastness, whenever someone tries to hold their feet to the fire, whenever someone tries to give them moral guidelines they should follow, they're oftentimes either criticized, lambasted, or they're rejected and laughed and mocked for even attempting to give women these standards. And 4, women oftentimes perceive themselves as the victims of their own story or their own lives. And because they feel like they're victims and they are underdog, they need every advantage that they can take to take down top dog, which is why they have no trouble being manipulative against men or forces that are bigger than them, or using whatever they have to get there. So with that being said, I think the conclusions that we can gather is, 1, I'm not saying that women cannot be morally upright people. I'm not saying that women can't have honor and that women can't have integrity. In fact, I'm saying quite the opposite. I'm saying that we should hold women's feet to the fire and we should encourage women to have these traits and to stop looking at men as an antagonistic force to be overcame, but looking at evil as a force that needs to be defeated, rather than paying into their manipulative, disloyal ways. And instead of pretending that women not having some standard to apply to doesn't hurt them in the long run, and protecting women's feelings beyond their mental capacity of growing to stand up on their own 2 feet is actually harming them more than helping them, we should definitely be applying these standards to women whenever we can. With that being said, I surely hope you guys got something out of today's video, and if you did, man, go ahead and click the like button. Yes, shoot, go and click that subscribe button. Comment in the comment box below, and as always, you guys have yourselves a great day, and I'll see you cool cats soon. Adios.